NFL Week 1 is upon us, and now we have to start looking at our Week 1 fantasy football lineup. Who should we start? Who should we sit? In today's video, we're going to be breaking down every single matchup of week number 1 from Thursday Night Football all the way through Monday Night Football, and I'll be telling you guys whether I think you should start or sit the wide receivers in every single matchup, as well as my projection for how well they will finish in that game, whether that is a high-end wide receiver 1, a flex option, a wide receiver 3, wide receiver 2, or as a sit. Before we can get on into things, though, I would like to ask if you guys are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, then please make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. So without further ado, let's get into my week number 1 wide receiver start or sit decisions. We begin with Thursday Night Football, the Dallas Cowboys at the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, for CeeDee Lamb, the Eagles defense ranked 32nd in points allowed last season to the wide receiver position, and I am scared for what could potentially happen to CeeDee Lamb as well as George Pickens in this matchup. The Cowboys defense will be much worse this season without Micah Parsons, and that should end up leading this to being a very pass-heavy attack, especially considering that they don't really have a true running back number 1. If they are getting bent over a table here in this spot by the Super Bowl champions, they will have to throw the ball a ton late in games, which could end up being the saving grace here for CeeDee Lamb. A big theme in this video and all of the videos that we make in week number 1 will be that you don't want to overthink every single thing about your lineup. You don't want to go sit on the toilet and go tinker with your lineup like you're Ruxin from the league and end up completely screwing the pooch because you tried to get cute, right? CeeDee Lamb was a top 6 pick in most fantasy leagues, so you are going to play him. I will rank him as a clear must-start wide receiver 1, but this could be a bad start to what should be a great season. Just like with CeeDee Lamb, this is a rough matchup for George Pickens in his Cowboy debut. I think this year is where George Pickens ends up truly solidifying himself as a great wide receiver in the NFL with significantly better quarterback play than he received in his time in Pittsburgh. But in this matchup, I don't want to get too high on him. I got him as a mid-range wide receiver 3. For Jalen Tolbert with George Pickens in town, there is no need to even discuss Tolbert or Turpin. For the Philadelphia Eagles, A.J. Brown has been practicing with a hamstring injury, so we should assume that he is going to be good to go in this game. This is a good matchup for wide receivers up against the Dallas defense. While I am definitely and was lower on A.J. Brown compared to most people in terms of my rankings of him before the season in fantasy football, it is week 1 against a defense that I think we can see a huge game out of A.J. Brown, so he is certainly going to be a top 12 wide receiver for me on the week and is in the must-start category, just like CeeDee Lamb. Devontae Smith is the clear wide receiver 2 on a very run-heavy team. Now, this matchup is certainly exploitable, but if the Eagles do run away with this game, they get up big, and they're able to keep mounting on the lead, they're going to run the ball a ton late in the game, which would make Devontae Smith certainly a much larger kind of casualty of that when compared to A.J. Brown. Smith has top 5 upside in any given matchup, especially in a matchup like this, but I could also see him finishing as like the wide receiver 35 or even 40. He is a low-end wide receiver 2 for me on the week. For Jahan Dotson, the Commanders legend should not be on anyone's radar, even if you are in a deeper league, so he's definitely a sit and shouldn't even be on your team. Next up, we move to the Kansas City Chiefs at the Los Angeles Superchargers on Friday Night Football. With Rashee Rice in football jail on suspension, Xavier Worthy will retain the throne as the wide receiver 1 for at least the length of Rice's suspension. The last time we saw Professor X, the man went nuclear up against the Eagles defense, despite the fact that the Kansas City Chiefs were getting piped all game long. The Chargers allowed the 12th most points to wide receivers last season, so I feel good about Worthy here in a game with a 45.5 point total. Not going to be super overzealous of my ranking of Xavier Worthy, give him the true gawk gawk 9,000 special of a top 12 wide receiver, but he definitely is a wide receiver 2 for the week in the mid to low end range. For Hollywood Brown, without Rice, we should see Hollywood get some work in this game. Last season, Hollywood failed to score more than 10 points coming off of a sternoclavicular joint dislocation, and honestly, I'm not even sure if I pronounced that correctly. He missed 14 games. With him fully healthy, he could become a player of note in deeper leagues, but for week 1, I would not trust him. Juju Smith-Schuster with Jalen Kansas City Royals not expected to suit up. We should see TikTok boy, Mr. Corvette, Juju Smith-Schuster get some looks in this game. Ultimately, not willing to play Hollywood, so I wouldn't play Juju Smith-Schuster either. Ladd McConkey, the lad played in one game last year up against the Chiefs in week 4, where he scored 17.7 PPR points. This was at the start of the season, where his production wasn't as reliable. Now, with him running scorching hot towards the end of last season, I think he comes out the jump of the season playing incredibly well. This is a pretty matchup, in my opinion, for wide receivers, but I do feel great about Ladd as a low-end wide receiver 1. Again, you drafted Ladd in the 2nd or the 3rd round for a reason. It's not to panic and shit down your pants and sit him up against the Chiefs defense. Keenan Allen, the route god, is back in LA with the Chargers. I love Keenan Allen and think he has big upside this season based on the big games we saw with the Chicago Bears last season and based upon his connection with Justin Herbert, the pervert. Week 1 up against the Chiefs, though, with him joining the team recently, I think he is just a bench stash for me. The 3rd wide receiver on the list for LA could either be Trey Harris, the rookie, or Quentin Johnston, depending on his health. Either way, though, you aren't playing the wide receiver 3 in LA with Keenan Allen in town. We move to the 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time kickoff on Sunday, chilling with Scott Hanson, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Atlanta Falcons. I love 2 of the wide receivers in this game as top 12 options. Now, Magic Mike Evans should start off the season looking great with Chris Godwin out. Mike missed the 2nd Atlanta Falcons matchup, but in the first game, he scored 2 touchdowns on his way to a 23.2 PPR point performance, and I feel great about him as a top 12 option in this game. I know that a lot of the summer, I was talking pretty negatively about Mike Evans, and I still do believe from a season-long perspective, I think Mike Evans is going to take a hit this season. He really only started getting things going last year once Chris Godwin got hurt, but there's no Chris Godwin to start off the season. Emeka Egbuka's in his first ever NFL regular season start, so Mike Evans should make a splash like a fat dude jumping into the pool, so I feel very good about Mike Evans in week number 1. Emeka Egbuka with Godwin out and with Jalen McMillan out, it's very clear that in his NFL debut, he will be the wide receiver number 2 in this offense. I've been banging the drum for him aggressively this summer, and I will back that up by firing him up in week number 1. Do I think he is an elite option like Mike Evans in this game? No, I do not, but I do believe this game has the opportunity to become a shootout, to be a very high-scoring back-and-forth affair, and it is entirely possible that in his rookie debut, he finishes inside the top 12. But again, I wouldn't take out a second mortgage on the house and bet that on that happening in this spot. So he is more of a wide receiver 3/flex candidate. But again, that doesn't mean that I don't like him here. I think the upside's there. But again, it's his first ever game. I don't want to get too high on him and then everyone ends up disappointed, right? If I rank him as like the wide receiver 22. For Sterling General Shepard, I think he should be the number 3 option on this team due to how many injuries there are, but his best days are behind him with the Giants, so I don't think he should be rostered. For the Atlanta Falcons, Drizzy Drake London is going to be a must start. Last year, up against Tampa Bay, Drake London put Zion McCollum on a t-shirt in week number 5, scoring 33.4 PPR points. In the second game, he was locked up like Akon as the wide receiver 62, scoring just 7.4 PPR points. We know Michael Penix loves Drake London, so my expectation is that there's going to be a heavy dosage of targets spoon-fed directly the way of Drake London. The Bucs allowed the 8th most points to wide receivers last season, so I feel great about my boy, my GOAT, Drizzy Drake London as a top 10 wide receiver on the week. Now, Darnell, here comes the Mooney, is back from the shoulder injury and really hasn't practiced much as the injury happened early on in training camp. So while I do think Darnell Mooney is a sneaky late round option based upon the production we saw last season, even if he's able to go in this game, he won't be at his best. Definitely has the upside on a season-long standpoint, but in week number 1, he should be riding the bench. Ray McLeod is one of these guys that will just randomly catch a tactical nuke thrown from Michael Penix and score a deep touchdown, and it's going to happen a few times this season, but at the end of the day, you're never going to actually know when to do that. He is not reliable at all, and low down on the target hierarchy, especially if Kyle Pitts maybe ascends this season, so he should not be on anyone's team. Now we move to game number 4 here with the Cincinnati Bengals at the Cleveland Browns. Regardless of the matchup, Ja'Marr Chase is a must-start wide receiver. I don't care how good or bad the defense he is going up against. Ja'Marr Chase has the upside to drop a 40 bomb in any given game. He scored 40 points up against the Cowboys and the Ravens. And then he actually played the Ravens twice this year. Spoiler alert, because they play in the same division. They'll play twice this year. Scored 40 on him the first time, 55 on him the other time. Against the Browns, he was a top 12 wide receiver in both weeks, and he will do it yet again against the Browns, so there's no need to give him the gawk 9,000 special here. Everyone knows how great Ja'Marr Chase is. He's my wide receiver number 1 on the week. With T. Higgins, I fully expect a Eiffel Towering of the Browns defense with Ja'Marr Chase and T. Higgins. T scored 18 plus points in both showings against them last year. Feel great about T in this spot as a high-end wide receiver too. Andre Yoshi Voss, if something was to happen to Chase or Higgins, knock on wood, Yoshi Voss could be a playable wide receiver, but with both healthy, he belongs on the waivers. While Jerry Jeudy was invisible, like his name was John Cena both times against the Bengals defense last year, the Bengals defense is straight up ass. They are atrocious. So the upside is definitely there. He is in the low-end wide receiver 2 to high-end wide receiver 3 range, though, strictly because I don't really trust Flacco. But the team is going to have to be throwing the ball late because presumably they're going to be down. And they might be down big. They might be down in a big way, so Jeudy should be able to rack up some garbage time points. So he's fine as a low-end wide receiver 2 to high-end wide receiver 3, but I wouldn't expect something super special in this game. Cedric Tillman went crazy against the Bengals in the one game he was healthy enough to play against them last year, which was a part of his 3-game murder spree that he was on. I like the matchup, but I will not get cute and play a guy that you drafted with one of your last picks in week 1, so I would sit him. The Cleveland Browns have a couple of guys who could be the wide receiver number 3, so we listed Jamari Thrash as the guy, but you're not playing him, so we're not even really going to talk about him. Next up, we move to my Miami Dolphins at the Indianapolis Colts, but before we talk about this game and the rest of the games on Sunday slate, then we move to Monday Night Football, I would like to give you guys a quick word from our friends and our partner over at Underdog. If you're brand new to Underdog and sign up using the link in the video description, you will be able to play $5 and get $50 in bonus funds as long as you sign up using promo code Notorious. I love doing the pick'ems over on Underdog. All you have to do is pick at least 2 players, not from the same team, and if both of the players hit the higher or the lower that you put on them, you get paid. So make sure you guys do check that out. Underdog, promo code Notorious, or by clicking on the link in the video description to play $5, get $50 if you're a new customer using promo code Notorious. And if you are still drafting and you deposit at least $10 over on Underdog, you'll receive my draft rankings sent to your email the very next day. So back on into things here with the Miami Dolphins at the Indianapolis Colts. Now, Mike McDaniel has said that Tyreek Hill looks great, looks phenomenal, looks pristine for week number 1 with his oblique injury. So I am going to start him. I know we've been diddled by coaches in the past. Cough, cough, cough. Oh, that sounded like I was choking on a cock or something right there. Pause. Cough, cough. We're talking about Christian McCaffrey last season, right? We got absolutely swindled by Christian McCaffrey, but you didn't draft Tyreek Hill in round 3 or 4 because you think Tyreek can't be trusted. You drafted him because you see the wide receiver number 1 upside that he possesses both on a weekly basis and on the season. I know last year he made you cry like the Dolphins make Hootie and the Blowfish cry, but if you had Tyreek, I get it. You were sad, but I am heavy on believing that Tyreek will play good in week 1. Tyreek is a high-end wide receiver 2 on the week. Jalen waddled away, waddle, has had a great summer. According to all of the Miami beat reporters, after a disappointing 2024 campaign. But it's important to understand that Tyreek Hill wasn't really there during that. So him playing so great shouldn't really shock anyone. This is a slightly below average matchup. I do think Waddle is going to bounce back, but I can't be all over him this week. But he is definitely a high-end wide receiver 3 for me. Malik Washington was popping off during the preseason, and the team brought in Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, former touchdown merchant from the Titans. As of right now, I would lean with Malik being the wide receiver 3 on the team in terms of targets, but I cannot guarantee that. If something was to happen to Reek or Waddle, I would definitely look to pick up whoever ends up being the wide receiver 3 here. But as of right now, with both healthy and they hopefully can stay safe for the whole season so that I don't fucking crash out if the Dolphins are a disaster again, which we know they will be, I am not holding either guy on the bench. Now, for both Michael Pittman Jr. and Josh Downs, they are just below being start worthy. There's some guys in this video that are just peeking their head over the metaphorical fence like the neighbor in Home Improvement, right? Some guys are just barely below the mark, and that would be Michael Pittman and Josh Downs. I get why you might want to play either player because the Dolphins cornerback room, frankly, is not good at all. And as a Dolphins fan, I know this secondary is going to cause me to launch my TV remote across the room a couple of times this season. I really, really, really do not trust Daniel Jones. So let us see how the target hierarchy unfolds here. Let's see how things go before we get overzealous ranking these guys as must-starts. Hopefully, Josh Downs is good with the hamstring injury, so we get a better look at things. Alec Pierce was fucking hilarious to watch last season. He would randomly drop his nuts on the defense with Anthony Richardson using his cannon to hit Pierce deep. But with Danny Dimes, there's no reason to hold him on your bench, even though, again, it was very funny what Alec Pierce did last season. Also, A.D. Mitchell's getting some hype as well, so definitely say no to Alec Pierce. Next up, we got the Las Vegas Raiders at the New England Patriots. Jacoby Myers, former Patriot, requested a trade and wants out of Vegas. The team does not want to trade him. Jacoby wants more money, and we will see if they pay him. Jacoby has been practicing, though, based on the report that I read, so that makes me think, hopefully, they might be close to a contract. But again, that's just an assumption, and you know assumptions can make an ass out of you and me, so I wouldn't guarantee him playing in this game. But let's just assume he does play, right? He's been practicing. He should be decent enough to be a low-end wide receiver 3 or flex option, but I don't think this is necessarily the best spot for him, and I also don't even know if he's going to end up playing. Now, Donta Thornton is another one of these guys that we're going to talk about that's a super hyped-up rookie that we have seen throughout the summer, clearly eclipsing the other rookie wide receiver, Jack Besh. I like what I've seen out of him, but as a late-round dart throw, you don't need them in your lineup when it's week 1. There's no bye weeks. There's no injuries. No reason to play Donta Thornton, even if Jacoby Myers doesn't play. And even if I think Thornton could be the wide receiver 1 in targets in that scenario, do I really want to roll the dice on that? Probably not, right? Amari Cooper, I've seen a lot of people in the comment section being like, Nick, would you pick up Amari Cooper? Now, if we could take Amari Cooper from, 2018, for example, I don't know if that's a year where he was great, right? But just a couple years ago, and you can insert him onto the Raiders now, then yeah, I would be all over Amari Cooper. Pause. But based on what I saw last season, I don't think you should be. Maybe he will prove me wrong. He'll go back into his old ways. He'll hop in the DeLorean. He'll get in the hot tub time machine and play well. But as of right now, I just don't believe it. I would leave him on the waiver wire. The Mario Douglas, the Mario time for the Patriots will be the second wide receiver that we talk about. Because first, we're going to be talking about Stefon Diggs. Nice little fake out, juke out for me because I was reading my notes incorrectly. Stefon Diggs was one of my favorite underrated options in the fantasy football draft season. I loved how late he was going in drafts. But, and this is a big but, shout out Leonard Paul, he is coming off of a torn ACL at 31 years old, almost 32. So don't hinge on him coming out the gate out Jump Street as a top 12 wide receiver. Sure, he has the ability to do that, and I think he could go out in week 1 and slap around the Las Vegas Raiders and make them hold his pocket, okay? I think that is entirely possible, But in week number 1, I don't want to get too cute. We'll rank him as a mid-range wide receiver 3. Demario Douglas does appear to be the wide receiver 2 on the team to start the season. Let's see how things play out before he or any of these other non-Diggs wide receivers on this team plays for your fantasy team, right? You want to make sure you can see what's going on. Demario Douglas or Kyle Williams, they were one of your last round picks. So you don't need to be rolling them out there in week number 1. Moving now to game number 6, we got the Arizona Cardinals at the New Orleans Saints. Make sure you guys do hit that subscribe button down below like it owes you some money if you are new to the channel and you are enjoying. Now, Marvin Harrison Jr. was one of the most convoluted talking points of the summer. Marvin Harrison Jr. absolutely frustrated you like no other. He was one of the most frustrating things I have ever dealt with in my life. A guy who has so much skill being used so incorrectly and putting up some games that no matter how good the rest of your team was, no matter how great someone played, Maserati Marv put your team in a fucking body bag. I am very optimistic that the skill will pay off, and ultimately he will become the guy that we thought he would be out of Ohio State. On paper, this is a great matchup, a fantastic matchup, as the Saints defense allowed the 6th most points to the wide receiver position last year. And I wouldn't project the defense to magically become significantly better than that. So while I am a little bit nervous, while there are shivers sending down my spine, I will rank him as a mid-tier wide receiver 2 with big upside in this matchup. Now, deep down, I will always be a Michael Wilson believer, but I don't believe in him enough to play him in week number 1, and I also don't believe in him enough to have him on my fucking roster. For Greg Dortch, the short king, you know, he's cool if you're playing like a 32-team league, but in any other format, even in a 32-team league, you shouldn't be rostering him. Chris Olave, relying on Chris Olave to stay healthy is a risky bet. A very risky bet, right? It's like betting on 000 in roulette, right? You ever been to a casino where they have 0, they have 00 and 000? Don't ever play at one of those, just so you know. But when he plays, he is so talented, man. The talent shines through the screen. He's shining bright like a diamond. Shout out to Rihanna. The biggest problem outside of his health, though, is Spencer Rattler sucks more dick than Bonnie Blue. Olave, as of right now, is in the high-end flex, low-end wide receiver 3 option for me. I definitely expect the Cardinals defense to look better. And again, I don't really trust Spencer Rattler either, but Olave has that big game in him. Rashid Shaheed Amshadid was on fire last season like Katniss before the 75th Hunger Games prior to his injury in week number 6. I think he is a solid bench piece with weekly upside, especially if Rattler takes the leap up or if Tyler Shuck looks way better. But as of right now, I am going to sit him on my bench. Now, Devon Vell, Denver ran the Saints' pockets when they traded away Vell. He's a decent player, right? I think he's decent, but he's not a fantasy option. Next up, we move to the Pittsburgh Steelers at the New York Jumbo Jets, the double revenge game. The Steelers are getting their revenge potentially on Aaron Rodgers getting tossed to the side. The Jets and I almost said Mr. Unlimited, that's the other quarterback in New York, and Justin Fields trying to get that revenge on the Steelers for bitching him for Mr. Unlimited and then getting rid of him. Now, this matchup has all of the makings of being one of the lowest scoring games on the week, and currently the game has the lowest over-under on the week according to Vegas lines. Even if that is the case, though, Garrett Wilson should be the premier number 1 option on this team. Thus, he should see a boatload of carries, especially if this is, or not carries, touches, targets, right? If this is a close game. This is a mid-tier matchup, in my opinion, up against the Steelers, so I got him as a middle-of-the-road wide receiver 2 on the week. Now, for the other Jets, we've got Josh Reynolds and Allen Lazard. Josh Reynolds has a pretty strong stranglehold over the wide receiver 2 spot in New York with the Jets, but that doesn't really mean much, as I don't expect him to have a ton of value on a team that wants to run the ball a ton. Reynolds and Aaron Rodgers' boy, Allen Lazard, should definitely be on your waivers. For the Pittsburgh Steelers, I don't like this matchup one bit. for Metcalf in his first ever start with the Steelers. While this is the Aaron Rodgers revenge game, this game could go south for that fairy tale ending. Metcalf is the best receiver on this team. It is, without a shadow of doubt, clearly the alpha wide receiver on this team. And he will be seeing his fair share of targets, but the Jets' corners are really good. So for me, I know Metcalf has the ability to win any matchup, and he could start off well, but this seems like a lower-end start here, mid-tier wide receiver 3, and this feels like a lot of people come into my comment section, Nick, you told me to draft DK Metcalf. DK Metcalf scored 9 fantasy points, you fucking idiot. You told me to draft him in the 5th round. I can see that coming in the comment section with haste the second this game ends. But look, you don't fucking panic off of week number 1, even though everyone always does it, right? And they, oh my God, I gotta trade DK Metcalf for a half-eaten bag of potato chips. And then DK Metcalf goes nuclear the next week, and then you look at me like I'm the idiot, right? It ain't my fault. Next up, we got Calvin Austin and Roman Wilson. Calvin Austin is another one of those guys that in any given week, he could catch that deep ball and pay off, but you probably will never actually see it coming like an RKO from Randy Orton, so you're never going to know who to start. He should be the wide receiver 2 to start off the season for the team, but ultimately up against the Jets defense, where I'm concerned with DK Metcalf, why the hell would you play Calvin Austin? Cousin Roman Wilson from GTA 4 didn't do diddly squat in his rookie year. There is still hopes that Rodgers can resurrect the guy, but just like Calvin Austin, no need to roster or play him. Next up, we move to the other New York team, even though they play in New Jersey, the New York Football Giants at the left. Hands up. Who are we? The Commanders? Malik Neighbors is another one of these wide receivers where you close your eyes, you can't see, right? Don't matter. You're putting Malik Neighbors into the lineup. Both games last year against the Commanders were top 24 finishes, with one game where he scored close to 30 points, 28.7 PPR points. The matchup isn't the best, but Malik is, Malik. He's going to see a shit ton of targets. Love him as a top 5 wide receiver. For the other Giants, we got Wandale, Darius Slayton. Wandale's about to turn 5+ targets into 40 yards, and you will like it if for some reason you start him. Get ready to learn 9 PPR points, because that's what he's going to end up doing. Wandale's one of the most boring players in fantasy football. Wouldn't remotely play him in this spot. Darius Slayton's another one of those deep ball guys. Or hey, maybe Russell Wilson chucks one of those moon balls deep his way, but who in the hell is starting Darius Slayton to even benefit from that? Now we move to the Commanders side of the ball. Scary Terry held out for a majority of the summer until ultimately signing his contract about a week ago at this point. Now, Terry McLaurin is Terry McLaurin, just like Malik Neighbors is Malik Neighbors, and he is the guy of the Washington Commanders wide receiver core. But, and this is a big but, shout out Angela White, him not practicing with the team could lead to a slow start. We've talked about this in the summer, right? We saw Lamb and Dak last year find that struggle to have a great connection. And then once that connection probably would have came to fruition, Dak Prescott got hurt. So starting off slow, following the contract of Terry McLaurin is very possible, right? Terry was the wide receiver 42 against them last year, but Jaden Daniels, that was his second ever game. I won't judge him too much. He was the wide receiver 21 the other game in week number 9. So to me, this feels like a wide receiver 20 to 28 performance, a buy low opportunity for you. If Terry McLaurin ends up shit in the bed, you could be able to get him on the low. Debo is one of my higher end sits, right? He's up there with Josh Downs, Michael Pittman, right? If someone I talked about and you sensed, hey, I don't have the most confidence in them, and you want to start Debo over one of those options, go right ahead. I do think he's going to be fine enough to not completely fuck you over, especially since Terry's been gone for so long. But ultimately, his floor isn't the highest. I just don't really feel confident in Debo. I didn't really like him in the summer either, so I do feel pretty strong conviction against him. Noah Brown should be the wide receiver 3 there, but again, it's week 1. You're not starting a wide receiver number 3. Now we move to the Carolina Panthers at the Jacksonville Jaguars. As we talked about in the running back start-sit video, the battle of the cats. Pat McMillan, T-Mac, has a great matchup in his first ever start. Thielen is out of town in Minnesota. Jalen Coker is on the IR, so there is nothing holding back McMillan in this game. Always a bit scary to be fully confident in a guy in his first ever NFL start, but I think McMillan is that good, and I like the matchup in week 1, so he's a mid-tier wide receiver number 2. Now, Xavier, somebody thought you might get, had a disaster of a rookie season. I think he can play well with the injuries around him, but with me not seeing too much out of his first season, why would I feel super confident here, even in a good matchup? So I'm leaving him on a bench or on the waivers. I'm fine if he is just chilling on your waivers. That's fine with me. David Moore should be the wide receiver number 3, but David Moore really ain't that good. For the Jaguars, death, taxes, BTJ, must start wide receiver. We will continue to hone in on the point that if you drafted a player early, they need to be in your lineup. Even Terry McLaurin, who I'm worried about, would be in my lineup. Mid-tier matchup for BTJ, but this guy was putting up numbers with Mac Jones last season, so with a healthy T-Law in a Liam Cohen offense with a potential high-scoring matchup, BTJ is locked and loaded as a top 10 wide receiver option. Travis Hunter should be good to go for his NFL debut with a upper body injury. Do I love Hunter in week 1? Fuck no, baby, because there is always the worry of him playing more defense than we would like. But ultimately, Liam Cohen has given us a lot of insurance on, hey, he's going to play like 80% of the offensive snaps, so no need to worry. But the injury, coming into his first game, that's obviously not the best. So he's a low-end wide receiver 3 on the week, assuming he's healthy enough to go. Just isn't a super safe bet in week 1. Diami Brown seems to have the wide receiver 3 spot on lock in Jacksonville, which is nice. But again, I'm not playing the wide receiver 3 on any team in week number 1. Now we move to the Tennessee Titans at the Denver Broncos, the start of the 4 p.m. slate on Sunday. The Titans defense is much better than people give them the credit for. The defense was ultimately let down massively by the play of quarterback Will Levis, who essentially took this team and kicked them directly in the cock multiple times last season. Every single game, the defense was giving him every opportunity. Please keep us in this game. Please, we're making all these great stops. And Will Levis would just say, fuck it. Calvin Ridley's out there somewhere and throw it into quadruple coverage. Right? The defense, eventually, we talk about this all the time. Defenses give up. They do. At some point, they break because the offense can't do anything. And ultimately, that's what happened with the Tennessee Titans. They could not move the ball. The defense was trying their best, but if the offense can't score any points, the defense eventually are going to tap out, okay? Tap out like it's a fucking UFC fight. Sutton has been a key piece in so much of the offseason content I have made, and I think he is a smash at ADP. This week, though, could be a letdown spot up against a good defense. So I got him as a mid-tier wide receiver 2, though, just strictly due to how much Bo Nix targets him. For the rest of the guys here, Marvin Mims and Pat Bryant, Mims ran incredibly hot towards the end of last season. The team has brought in Evan Ingram, though, and a better rushing attack for this season. So there's too many question marks here on this scenario for me to play Mims or Pat Bryant. And I am very excited to see what Pat Bryant does based upon everything that Sean McVay kept saying all summer about him. But in week 1, there's no need to start him up there. I like Calvin Ridley's season-long projection. I love Calvin Ridley, but I am scared. In the first ever regular season game with Cam Ward under center against one of the best defenses in the NFL, Patrick Surtain could lock this man up and throw away the key. This could be a potential disaster of large proportions where you start Calvin Ridley, and this is kind of one of those scenarios where we stay away from the starts the studs matchup, but Calvin Ridley isn't necessarily a stud. He wasn't really like a top 5 round pick, so I get if your wide receiver core is a little bit on the struggle bus, you went heavy running back early, maybe you have to play Calvin Ridley in week 1, and you're just going to be like, you know what, Cam Ward's going to feed him. Calvin Ridley is Calvin Ridley. He'll be fine, right? I don't think he's going to be a complete failure, but I also don't think you really should be starting him in this matchup, so I got him as a sit. Tyler Lockett in my pocket. Skirt is far past his time. If you want to get like 10 points every couple games, go ahead and roster him. He makes business decisions on the weekly basis, and what I mean by that is he could easily go get a first down, but there's a big man in his way looking to hit him. So he's old. He says, you know what? I'm falling over. I'm not getting hit. Might not get the first down, but I'm not getting CTE. I'm all good. He lays down. He's not taking the potential hit. That's good for him, and I respect it. But there's no need to have him on your team in big 2025. Alec Iomanner. This is the guy that I'm excited about in Tennessee outside of Calvin Ridley. because I think he can be very good in this offense. 4th round pick out of Stanford, but when push comes to shove, it's first game against one of the best, if not the best defense in the NFL. I would even like to see him play well before I even pick him up off of waivers. Next up, we move to the San Francisco 49ers at the Seattle Seahawks. Always an interesting game between these two. Ricky Rolex, Ricky Bullets, Ricky Pearsall comes into the week 1 operating as what should be the wide receiver number 1 in a matchup where they're 2.5-point favorites in Seattle. It seems the consensus rankings on Fantasy Pros are scared to start Ricky, but I ain't no bitch. I am not scared of Ricky, just like he was not scared of the guy that shot him to steal his Rolex. He took the gun back. He shot him back. Guess what, buddy? Get fucked. Look, Ricky Pearsall was willing to take a bullet for his Rolex. I've made this joke before. He is ready to die for your fantasy team, baby. I love Ricky Pearsall, especially with all these injuries around him. This guy was on fire down the stretch of last season, NBA Jam style. So with all the injuries in San Fran, Ricky is going to get a load of targets. I got him as a mid-range wide receiver 2 on the week. Juwan Jennings is holding out, it would appear, but he's also dealing with the calf situation. But it could be like, hey, my calf's a little bit messed up, but really it's a holdout. Or maybe the holdout is masking the calf situation. Could be one or the other. Could be both combined. The team has said they won't trade him, so we're going to see if he suits up in week 1. But even if he does suit up, how sure are you that he's even fully healthy? So I would stay away even if he does play. Russell Gage Jr. without Brandon Ayuk and with Demarcus Robinson on the suspended list. If Gage plays this week with the knee injury he's been dealing with, he could be the wide receiver 2, but anyone that's been watching football for a while and knows who Russell Gage is, knows that Russell Gage isn't worth playing at this point in his career, even if it's a good scenario like it is in San Fran. For the Seattle side of the ball, look, if you drafted JSN in the first 3 to 4 rounds, maybe you got overzealous, you drafted him in the second round, you're going to start him, of course. Am I jumping for joy? Fucking running around my house? Yay! I'm so happy to play JSN. Against the 49ers, no, I'm not. I mean, he has a pretty high floor due to high target share, but this doesn't feel like pure domination, right? Just like the corner stance, no chance against JSN. I don't really see that as the case, where he sets the world ablaze and wins your matchup, but he's a high-end wide receiver too. He'll get his volume. He'll be fine for you. He's not going to screw you over. For the other Seattle Seahawks, it's week 1. We haven't seen regular season with Cooper Kupp yet, 2025, on a brand new team, with a QB who's making his first regular season start for a brand new team, and a quarterback who I think Kevin O'Connell really helped him out. Kevin O'Connell was playing with him like a puppet, like how, in Sesame Street, there's a guy up Elmo's ass, metaphorically, controlling Elmo, okay? That's how I felt was happening with Kevin O'Connell and Sam Darnold. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Sam Darnold's too legit to quit now, but I don't think so. Torrey Horton, here's a who, has gotten a solid drumbeat this summer. If the Seattle offense explodes, like it has the potential to, maybe you can start him eventually, but as of right now, he's a bench and deeper league type of guys, and if you're not in a deeper league, he is a waiver wire option. Next up, we move to the Detroit Lions at the Green Bay Packers. Amon-Ra St. Brown was not at his best last season up against the Packers, but Amon-Ra St. Brown is the wide receiver 1 in the second highest projected total game on the week. Let's rock with Amon-Ra St. Brown as a wide receiver 1 on the week. Again, do not overthink things. Do not get cute. Do not just magically start some random motherfucker that was like an 11th round pick over Amon-Ra St. Brown because, oh my God, the Packer defense might be really good, right? Don't panic, but everyone does it. Everyone loves to do it. You felt so confident putting your nuts on the table and drafting Amon-Ra St. Brown in round 1, maybe round 2 if you got lucky. So why are you going to sit him? You do not sit him, right? Last year, even after you struggled the first time against the Packers, I wasn't coming on here being like, oh, you got to sit Amon-Ra St. Brown. Nah, this motherfucker is one of the best receivers in the NFL. You're going to play him. 6+ targets in both games against the Packers last year, and he averaged 8.4 targets per game last season. Just start Amon-Ra St. Brown. Don't overthink it. But again, the only reason why I say these things in the videos is because people will ask me like, Nick, are you scared about Amon-Ra St. Brown this week? And the answer is no. I'm not scared at all. Now, I was not a big JMO fan on the offseason. Now, I wasn't telling people to fade him, right? I wasn't telling you like, oh my gosh, if you draft Jameson Williams, that's a guy that's elbow dropping your fantasy team. That's a guy that's going to hit your offense with the 619 Rey Mysterio. No, I didn't say that. I just said I didn't love where he was getting drafted. If you drafted him, I'm not judging you. And maybe this year he becomes a much more consistent wide receiver. And in any given game, this guy could pop off and hit his hump the ground celebration that he did in the playoffs after the Commanders, following that, ended up humping them in the ass and beating the shit out of them. Green Bay wasn't kind to J-Mo last year either. So he's a mid-range wide receiver. He's fine, but I don't love him. Isaac Tesla has been a player that a lot of people talked about. Like, ooh, exciting rookie Isaac Tesla. Right in the preseason. That's preseason. Now it's week 1. He's not a top-tier receiver on this team. You know, Laporta's getting more targets than him. So again, we'll see how this plays out. But ultimately, no confidence in him this week. Then we got the Packers. Matthew Golden Scar. I love Matthew Golden, and I'm glad that a lot of people hopped on board with me. They hopped on the wagon. A lot of you guys comment your fantasy team in the comment section after you draft it. I love seeing those, even if I don't answer every comment. I read all of them, or most of them, right after I post the video. Normally there's like 8,000 comments, so maybe I'll miss some of them, but I see a lot of, and people on Patreon, check out the Patreon, link in the video description. I post my rankings on there, and I answer questions on there. People send me their team, and a lot of you guys drafted Matthew Golden. I'm very happy about that because, again, I really think Matthew Golden's going to have a great rookie year. But it's week 1 in a hostile environment. I still think he's like a flex-worthy option, but just don't expect him to come out here and score 25 points, right? He could, right? He could, but I wouldn't project him to do that. Jaden Riley-Reed is dealing with a Jones fracture in his left foot, but the report is that he plans on playing through it. I love Jaden Reed, but man, oh man, if he plays in this game and he's playing through an injury in his foot, I just don't feel good about playing him. Romeo Doubs has that touchdown upside weekly. In a matchup like this, it is plausible, but for this week, I'm just rocking with Golden again. There's no bye weeks. No one's hurt. I guess Jaden Reed's kind of hurt, right? But none of the main guys are hurt. Like, you don't have to play Romeo Doubs in week 1. Next up, we move to the final game before the 2 primetime games. We got the Houston Texans at the Los Angeles Rams. I was talking up Nico Collins all summer, and I'm ready to talk him up again. Clear alpha wide receiver on a team with a solid quarterback, and he is a guy who has finished top 8 wide receiver in points per game in back-to-back seasons. A clear must-start any week kind of guy regardless of the matchup, so no need to talk about it too much here. I think up against the Rams, he could put up a top 5 showing. For Christian Kirk and Jaden Higgins, I like both of them, and I do think at some point both of them will have their time in the limelight this season. Christian Kirk should be the number 2 option early in the season, and Higgins could develop as a rookie and as the season goes along and maybe become that guy. But in week number 1, again, no one's hurt. There's no bye weeks. There's no need to shoot for the moon and play Kirk or Higgins, but they both should be rostered. For the LA Rams, Puka Nacua is in the exact same boat as Nico Collins. You got to start him regardless of the matchup. Texans allowed the 7th most points to wide receivers last season, and as long as Stafford looks like 75% of himself, Puka Nacua is going to see around 10 targets here. He is a big safety net in your lineup. I got him as a top 6 wide receiver on the week. Davante Adams joins the Rams offense in the offseason. Tons of people are scared of Davante because Puka is here, but I truly believe both of these guys can coexist and ball out together. We talked about earlier how Jamar Chase and T. Higgins are going to Eiffel Tower the Browns defense. I feel the exact same thing here about Puka and Adams. I love this matchup, and I got Adams as a high-end wide receiver 2 on the week, and I wouldn't even be shocked if he outscored Mr. Puka in this game. With Adams now there, Tutu's value is at the bottom of the ocean, wrapped with chains around him like Big Pussy in The Sopranos, so you should not be rostering Tutu Atwell. Next up, we move to the Baltimore Ravens at the Buffalo Bills, because you waited all day for Sunday night, and what a Sunday night kickoff this is going to be. A potential barn burner, a potential rock'em sock'em robots matchup with little defense. I'm excited about that, but I'm not really excited about the wide receivers here. The last time these two teams played was a certified banger. 27-25 win for the Buffalo Bills, with Mark Andrews fumbling the bag in the playoffs at the end of the game. Zay Flowers was hurt and did not play in that game. Early on the season, the Ravens beat the piss out of the Bills 35-10. I don't give a piss about nothing but the Tide. The Tide got absolutely rolled. Embarrassment last night, if you guys watched that. You guys watch college? I don't like Alabama, but I did bet on them when they were down. I was thinking, oh, they'll come back. No, they did not. And the Ravens just ran the ball majority of the time in that game when they were running 35-10, which led to Derrick Henry putting up massive numbers. And Zay Flowers scoring 2 fantasy points on 2 targets, by far his worst game of the season. I don't expect this game to be a one-sided affair, so Zay should be able to get in the high-end wide receiver 3 conversation. Wasn't really that excited about Flowers in the summer, and I think this ranking kind of justifies what I was saying. Rashad Master-Bateman is another one of those classic drops of 20 points one week, and then the next week you're like, oh my gosh, I'm ready to play Rashad Bateman, and then he disappears Houdini style in the next game, so I'm not going to be chancing it here. DeAndre Hopkins, the only reason why someone might have drafted D-Hop is because of name value. Look, I get if you're doing like an underdog draft, promo code Notorious. You're in the 18th round, you're like, fuck it, D-Hop, he's got the touchdown upside. Sure, I can get that, right? But in your home league, you're not going that deep on rounds. On underdog, you're not drafting a kicker or a defense. You're going 18 rounds deep. It's a deep player pool, right? So I get, you're thinking D-Hop's going to maybe get some touchdowns. I think he could, right? But ultimately, his target share will not be there on a run-heavy offense. Why the hell did anyone draft DeAndre Hopkins? For the Buffalo Bills, no one circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. Khalil Shakir is the definition, textbook definition, of a bye-week fill-in or injury fill-in. Shakir scored over 20 fantasy points in PPR one time last season. He isn't a big touchdown threat. He has just 7 over his 3-year NFL career. Last year, against the Ravens, he scored 10 points in week 4 and 12 points in the playoff game. I expect around 10 fantasy points here, so why would I start him? Keon Coleman, some people like him. Others feel like Keon Coleman took him to the cleaners last season and they don't want to start him or play him or even draft him. I sit more in the middle, right? I'm not completely out. I'm not all in. I think his ability to be a real fantasy start-worthy option is there, but I want to see it before I believe it. It's like in the Polar Express. So I think Keon's fine. I'm not going to start him though. Joshua Palmer. Besides Joshua Palmer's family, I may be the biggest Joshua Palmer guy or girl on earth, the biggest Joshua Palmer fan. I liked him last year, and obviously that crashed and burned. But as a guy you could have drafted for free or picked up off the waiver wire for free, he is interesting due to how uninspiring Khalil Shakir is and with how good this Josh Allen-led Buffalo Bills offense should be. Week 1, though, there's no need to start him. Final game here, Monday Night Football, Game 16, the Cold Like Minnesota Vikings at the Chicago Bears. Justin Fields got locked up by Jalen Johnson in Week 12 and then beat his ass in Week 15 with 20.3 fantasy points. Justin Jefferson is Justin Jefferson. He is a top 3 wide receiver in the NFL, and to some, he's the best wide receiver in the NFL. You play him regardless of who he's facing. The dude's built different, clear top 3 start on the week. Adam Thielen gets shipped off to the Panthers and goes home to Minnesota. It's kind of like if LeBron was old and pretty washed and then returned to the Cavs instead of when he was in his prime. Now, maybe that's a little bit mean about Thielen because he did show some flashes last season, but in Week 1, after just joining the team in prime time in enemy territory with essentially a rookie quarterback in J.J. McCarthy, not going to be playing him there. For Jalen Naylor, I barely knew her. There's some optimism surrounding his hand injury that maybe he plays in Week 1. As long as he doesn't suffer any setbacks, he should play. But now Thielen's there. They've got Hawkinson. They have Jefferson. Naylor's just really an afterthought there. For the Chicago Bears, despite the Vikings having a great defense, it was red panty night for the opposing wide receivers in 2024 up against the Minnesota Vikings and Brian Flores, that bum. I fucking can't stand Brian Flores for what he did to my Miami Dolphins, throwing us under a bridge, chilling with the troll from Dora, where, oh my God, they met with Tom Brady on a boat, tampering, and then we got our first round pick taken from us. Fuck you, Brian Flores. I can't stand that guy. DJ Moore dropped 26.9 points in Week 12 and 15 in Week 15. I know, Rome Odunze is the talk of the summer. I love Rome Odunze, and I do too. I'm jumping for joy for Rome Odunze. But Moore is still perceived to be the wide receiver 1 on the team, and until something changes, we should feel good about him in the wide receiver 2 range. So I got him as a mid-range wide receiver 2. Rome Odunze, with all of the hype of Rome this summer, just like we just talked about, I am going to roll out him as a high-end wide receiver 3. The hope here is that Caleb can elevate 2 wide receivers in this offense with Ben Johnson as the head coach. There is risk with Rome, but in a solid matchup, I'm willing to take that risk. And sure, maybe Rome wasn't built in a day in his rookie year. Now it's year number 2 with a coach that actually has brain, has a brain in there. Olamide Zaccheaus seems to be the wide receiver 3 over Luther Burden. And I think if you drafted Luther Burden, he's going to be a burden to you because he's not playing early on in the season. That's just a joke, obviously. I do think Luther Burden's really talented. Just don't know about how I would project him for week number, for the first couple weeks of the season, but Zaccheaus really ain't that good. So eventually he will take over for that role, but he still be the wide receiver 3. So thank you guys all so much for watching. If you ended up enjoying today's video, please make sure that you hit that subscribe button like it owes you some money. Leave a like on today's video. It would help me out a ton. Make sure you guys do check out Underdog. Play $5. Get $50 in bonus funds using promo code Notorious or by clicking on the link in the video description. Check out one of the videos on your screen if you haven't seen it already. I love you long time. Hope you have a great one. As always, good boy.